For about half a century, the very idea of Starfleet Academy was this incredible promise for Star Trek fans, a future built on discipline, on discovery. But the new series, it's kind of thrown that old playbook out the window. And for a lot of people, it feels like a real betrayal. So how did this long-awaited dream turn into a fandom basically at war with itself? Let's get into it. Okay, so it all really kicks off right here with the 1975 Starfleet Technical Manual. Now, you got to understand, this wasn't just some book. For a whole generation of fans, this thing was the Bible. It painted a picture of a future where Starfleet was a serious, organized institution. I mean, a total escape from the messy reality of the 1970s. It was this promise of a better tomorrow, and that promise became the bedrock of a dream that's lasted 50 years. But that dream of a disciplined, purposeful Starfleet has just slammed into a very harsh new reality. For a lot of fans, the new show on Paramount Plus is, well, it's not what they were hoping for. And the reactions? Let's just say they are not pulling any punches. So what happened? How did we get to this point? How does a dream that burned so bright for 5 decades suddenly feel like a nightmare for so many people? Well, like a lot of things, the answer is in the past. So let's talk about that foundation. See, the expectations for a Starfleet Academy show didn't just appear out of thin air. No, they were built piece by piece over decades, starting with that one iconic book. This is what so many fans absolutely fell in love with. It wasn't just about the cool ships, it was about the ideals. That technical manual, it wasn't about technology, it was about a whole philosophy, a future where humanity had a real purpose. And that purpose was spelled out in things like the Articles of Federation. That was the Starfleet they were promised. And you know, the idea of actually turning this into a TV show, it's not new at all. In fact, there was another big attempt before this one that just never quite got off the launch pad. But even before the current series, the whole concept of a Starfleet Academy show was a total minefield. A prequel series was actually in the works, but it was pretty much dead on arrival. And why? Because right from the very beginning, fans were just deeply, deeply skeptical about the whole thing. They thought it was a joke. Yeah, literally. According to the folks involved back then, fans thought it would be a sort of spoof or a takeoff. The fear, even then, was that a show about a bunch of kids in space would just undermine the very heart of Star Trek. And that fear, as we're about to see, it never really went away. So let's fast forward to today. That old debate has absolutely exploded into a full-blown conflict. The new Starfleet Academy series is here, and for a very vocal part of the audience, it's pretty much everything those early skeptical fans were afraid it would be. And this, right here, is the heart of it all. You've got classic Starfleet on one side, seasoned officers exploring the unknown, all about command and duty. And then you have the new Starfleet Academy, young cadets just trying to survive college with a heavy focus on drama and relationships. It's a seismic shift, and for many longtime fans, it's just not the show they were waiting for. And that shift, it has split the fandom right down the middle. Battle lines are drawn, and believe me, the war of words online is intense. On one side, you have the traditionalists. They're saying things like this, that the characters are just, well, irritating. They see a cast of kids who they feel have no business wearing a Starfleet uniform. And for them, the show feels like a betrayal of everything Star Trek is supposed to stand for. But then you flip the coin completely. You have people who are all in, saying the show's been fantastic, the characters are great, and the story hooked them immediately. For this side, it's a fresh, exciting new direction for Star Trek, a bold new frontier. And the criticism gets personal. Parody trick 90210. I mean, that's a brutal takedown, but it really gets to the core of the complaint, doesn't it? The feeling that this show has treated those big philosophical sci-fi questions for, high school drama. And it's not just teen drama. Some are calling it a straight-up soap opera. This idea that the endless cycle of breakups and makeups has completely replaced that sense of wonder and discovery that used to define Star Trek. For these fans, the final frontier has basically been turned into a galactic gossip column. So if we boil down the main complaints, this is what you get. Viewers are saying it feels like a soap opera. The special effects are way overblown. It's strayed too far from the classic tone, the performances are stultifying, and the characters are just irritating. For these fans, the show isn't just a letdown, it's a disaster. But here's the thing. Despite all that backlash, the people making this show have a vision that is, well, it's incredibly audacious. They're not just trying to make a TV show, they're trying to build a universe, and they're planning for it to last forever.
The person behind this plan is executive producer Alex Kurtzman, and his vision is actually pretty simple. A show that never has to end, one that can constantly reinvent itself with new characters, new stories, and a whole new generation of heroes. But how in the world does he plan to pull that off?
Well, the Forever plan is actually pretty clever. First, you introduce a new class of cadets every single year. Then, you keep adding new characters to the mix. After 4 years, you follow them as they graduate and head out into the fleet. And just like that, you've created a show that could, in theory, run forever. It's like a perpetual motion machine for Star Trek content. But there's a big catch.
2026.
So what's with that number? Well, that's the year Alex Kurtzman's contract as the head of the entire Star Trek franchise reportedly ends, which means the guy who dreamed up a Star Trek that could last forever might not even be around to see the first class of cadets graduate.
And it's not just his contract that's up in the air. The whole Star Trek franchise is in what's being called a strange state of flux. With corporate mergers and the whole shifting streaming landscape, the future under Paramount Skydance is a huge question mark. And for a brand new, already controversial show like Starfleet Academy, that kind of uncertainty can be a death sentence.
So that's the real final frontier for Starfleet Academy. It's a show with this grand vision of lasting forever, but it's trapped in a present that is anything but certain. Can this new generation of cadets somehow bridge the gap in a fractured fandom and navigate the tricky waters of corporate Hollywood? Or is this dream, like so many before it, just destined to fizzle out on the launch pad?